Welcome to another episode of the Everyday English Journey podcast. I'm Liam.
And I'm Maya. And today we're diving into something every English learner faces at some point: the fear of making mistakes.
That fear can be so powerful that it stops people from speaking at all. You might worry that people will laugh at you, correct you too harshly, or think you're not smart.
Exactly. It's like every time you want to say something, your brain hits the brakes and says, "What if I mess this up?" But let's be real, everyone makes mistakes when learning a language. Even native speakers do.
Right? We trip over words all the time. So today, we're going to talk about why that fear exists, how it slows down your learning, and what you can do to calm it down so you can actually use your English in real life.
Because let's be honest, learning happens through mistakes. You can't grow if you're always trying to be perfect. So let's unpack that fear together and start changing how we see mistakes, not as failures, but as signs of progress.
Let's start by asking, where does this fear come from? For a lot of learners, it starts in school. Maybe you got corrected too much, maybe you felt embarrassed when others laughed. That memory sticks, and now as an adult, you avoid speaking up.
Yes. And when you carry that fear with you, even just saying a simple sentence can feel scary. You think, what if I say this wrong? What if I forget the word? What if they don't understand me?
It becomes a habit of self-doubt. But here's the thing, when you don't try, you guarantee that you won't improve. When you do try, even if it's messy, you're training your brain to communicate.
And here's another truth. Most people aren't judging you. They're just happy you're trying. Especially in English-speaking countries, people are used to different accents and grammar. They'll usually help you, not shame you.
Absolutely. In fact, your effort is often respected. Think of how brave it is to speak in a second language. That's courage. That's something to be proud of.
Now, one great way to cope with this fear is to change your relationship with mistakes. Instead of seeing them as something bad, try to see them as feedback. A mistake is just a signpost that says, "Hey, here's an area to practice more."
Yes. And the more you speak, the more comfortable you become with being uncomfortable. That's the magic. Every awkward moment builds your resilience. You stop freezing. You start flowing.
A practical tip is to plan for mistakes. Tell yourself, "I'm going to try, and I will make a few errors, and that's okay." It's like going to the gym. You expect to feel sore, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're getting stronger.
That's a great metaphor. And remember, fluency doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from being fearless, from showing up anyway, from saying the sentence even if you get the tense wrong, from laughing at your own mistakes and learning from them.
And having a sense of humor helps, too. If you mispronounce something or use the wrong word, just smile, fix it if needed, and keep going. You're human. That's part of the learning journey.
Another thing that really helps is creating safe spaces to practice. If you're only speaking English in high-pressure situations, like job interviews or formal presentations, you're going to feel way more nervous about making mistakes.
Exactly. But if you create low-stakes opportunities to speak, like joining a casual online group, talking to a language partner, or just speaking to yourself out loud, you give yourself the freedom to mess up, reflect, and try again.
And you can even turn it into a game. Challenge yourself, how many small mistakes can I make today? Not because you want to get it wrong, but because it means you're using the language instead of hiding behind fear.
One of my favorite methods is journaling out loud. Instead of writing your thoughts, say them. Talk to yourself in English about your day, your feelings, your opinions, even just for 5 minutes. There's no one to judge you, and you'll build that confidence bit by bit.
That's powerful. And remember, confidence isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the decision to keep going despite them. So many fluent speakers today once felt like they'd never get there, but they didn't give up every time they said something wrong.
And if you need more encouragement, look back at how far you've already come. Maybe a year ago, you couldn't even introduce yourself. And now you're listening to this entire podcast in English. That's huge. That's growth.
Yes. And the fear might still show up sometimes, but that doesn't mean it has to control you. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can stumble on a word and still be understood. You can learn to trust yourself one sentence at a time.
So take a deep breath, embrace the imperfections, and remember that every time you open your mouth, you're already winning. You're already becoming a more confident, capable English speaker, just by trying.
And if you're ever in a conversation and freeze up or forget a word, don't panic. That happens even to native speakers. You can always pause, rephrase, or say, "Sorry, I'm still learning." People are usually more supportive than we imagine.
Yes. I think a lot of the fear comes from this belief that everyone's judging us. But most people are actually impressed when someone is speaking in their second language. They don't expect perfection, they admire your effort.
And think about how you react when someone speaks your language with an accent or makes small grammar mistakes. Do you laugh at them? Probably not. You focus on the message, not the imperfections.
Exactly. So why do we assume others will be harsher on us than we are on them? It's just that inner critic being loud again. But we can turn down the volume on that voice by practicing self-compassion.
And by remembering that making mistakes is not a sign of failure, it's a sign that you're pushing yourself, stretching your limits, and actively learning. No one becomes fluent by staying silent.
That's so true. Fluency is built from thousands of imperfect moments, not perfect ones. It's built when you keep going, even after you say something wrong, forget a word, or feel embarrassed.
And those embarrassing moments? They often become your best stories later. The times you mispronounced something funny or used the wrong word, you'll laugh about them one day, and they'll show just how far you've come.
Absolutely. And every mistake is like a stepping stone across the river. If you skip them, you don't move forward. If you step on them, even if you wobble, you get closer to the other side.
And let's be honest, some of the most confident English speakers aren't the ones who speak perfectly. They are the ones who speak freely, who don't let the fear of a mistake stop them from expressing their ideas, telling their stories, or asking questions.
Exactly. It's not about having flawless grammar or the perfect accent. It's about communication. It's about connection. If people understand what you're trying to say, then you're succeeding, mistakes and all.
And sometimes, when you make a mistake and laugh it off, it actually builds a stronger connection with the people you're talking to. It makes you human, relatable, and real. People respond to that.
Totally. I've seen learners become more confident not because they stopped making mistakes, but because they stopped being afraid of them. That shift changes everything. It's when learning becomes fun again.
And that's when real progress happens. When you're no longer trying to be perfect, you're more relaxed, more present, and more open to new experiences. You start to notice your growth instead of obsessing over what's missing.
And that shift doesn't just help with learning English, it helps in life. Letting go of perfectionism teaches you patience, self-kindness, and resilience. You learn to accept yourself in progress, and that's powerful.
And once you start accepting that progress isn't always linear, that some days will feel amazing and other days will feel like setbacks, you stop judging yourself so harshly. You realize that fluency isn't a straight road, it's a winding journey full of valuable detours.
Yes, and those detours often teach you more than the perfect path ever could. Like when you get stuck trying to explain something, and end up learning 5 new expressions in the process. That moment of struggle becomes a breakthrough, not a failure.
And sometimes, you look back at things that used to scare you, like joining a conversation or speaking up in class, and you realize they don't scare you anymore. That's growth. Quiet, steady, powerful growth.
And you realize that making mistakes, fumbling over your words, or forgetting a phrase didn't stop you from communicating. It didn't ruin the moment. In fact, it often opened the door to connection, laughter, or even learning something new.
It's like building muscle. You don't see the strength developing day by day, but then one day, you lift something you couldn't lift before. That's your brain on practice, on patience, and on perseverance.
And when you start viewing each mistake as a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not afraid of getting it wrong, you're focused on getting better.
So if you're listening to this right now and you've been battling perfectionism in your English journey, take a deep breath. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to keep going.
Exactly. Progress doesn't require perfection. It just needs your presence, your effort, and your willingness to keep trying, even when it feels messy. Especially when it feels messy.
Let go of the pressure to speak flawlessly. Embrace the power of showing up, of speaking anyway, of learning out loud. That's where real growth lives.
And remember, confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. One imperfect, courageous step at a time.
Thanks for joining us today. If this episode helped you feel seen, encouraged, or a little more brave, share it with someone else who might need it.
And don't forget, you are doing better than you think. Keep learning, keep laughing, and most importantly, keep speaking.
We're proud of you. Until next time, stay kind to yourself and stay curious.
See you in the next episode.